Woo! Woo! Eric Winchester, Luisa Alanis, John Williams, Anthony Del Toro, Chris Gonzalez, Steve DeRocco, the original Rock, the Rocket Man, the Human Element, the original Italian Stallion. It is a Monday, June 7th. I wasted 3 hours yesterday watching the Dallas Mavericks take on the LA Clippers in game number 7. I knew it was at 2:30-ish, planned my whole day. Chris Duel show along with Shannon Salty Sweeney. Shannon, you are a Mavericks fan. I was a Mavericks fan during this series because the enemy of my enemy is my friend, and my enemy is Kawhi Leonard. And your Dallas Mavericks were up 3-2 in this series. Just had to win one of the last 2 games. Just one. And it didn't happen. Kawhi advances, much to my chagrin.
Luka can only take them so far. I'm watching that game and I'm yelling when anyone but Luka takes a shot, which is sad because they're NBA players. It shouldn't be like that. It's not like when you're playing Pee-wee basketball and there's that one kid who's just there because everybody makes the team and everyone gets fair playing time. Right? Like Luka is by far and away the best player on that team. He has absolutely no help. And he couldn't do it all by himself. And we saw that the last couple of games. I got a lot done during that game yesterday because I started doing things around the house because it was pretty much over going into that second quarter.
Well, but in the third quarter, I guess early in the third, Mavericks jumped up by 5, and I'm going, oh, woo, all right, yeah, all right. Second half, Mavs up by, and then blink your eye, whoosh,
right?
And the Clippers were up 15. It went from Mavs up 5 to Clippers up 15 late third quarter. It's seemingly in 17 seconds.
In my eyes, if the Mavs not being able to pull away in that first half and pull away by a lot meant that there was no hope.
And
Luka can't do it all himself.
Well, and you and Tanner Carlson, who's a regular on the show and also a Mavericks fan, the two of you have maligned Kristaps Porzingis, and I get it now. It's like dude was supposed to be the Robin to Luka's Batman. You're supposed to be the number 2 in the same way Kawhi and Paul George are a duo, in the same way LeBron and Anthony Davis are a duo. Kristaps Porzingis, God, just a waste of space.
He's robbing us, making millions, doing absolutely nothing.
That's what I get for being a Mavs fan for a series.
Yeah. Who are you a fan of now? I think I'm going.
I guess I'm a Utah Jazz fan, and sadly now, and we're gonna do each conference. Unless there's a bigger poll question tomorrow that must be asked, we'll do the Eastern Conference tomorrow. But our poll question today takes the 4 teams in the Western Conference, and sadly now, Shannon, I look at these 4 teams, and until the team with the best record in the NBA, the Utah Jazz, can demonstrate that they can knock off the Clippers, and until the Suns, and I know the Suns got a big series win over the Lakers, but I'm not going to believe it till I see it. I really believe the Clippers now become the team to beat in the Western Conference, and in a weird way, the adversity they just went through against the Dallas Mavericks, I think helps them. I mean, here was a team without an identity, without a lot of intestinal fortitude. We all thought they were kind of weak. They disappointed in the playoffs in the bubble in Orlando last year. And this gut punch that the Mavericks took a 2-0 lead in this series. They had a 3-2 lead. There were 2 straight elimination games the Clippers had to win. I think this makes the Clippers a more formidable team moving forward in the playoffs.
I think it's all fine and dandy. We are asking on our poll today which team will represent the Western Conference in the NBA Finals. So go ahead and vote. Right now, Jazz off to an early lead. But when we get down to it, I think the East, I mean, Brooklyn has it. When I look at these West teams and the injuries that have been plaguing these teams, the craziness that has been the Clippers not being able to get it done on their home court, except for last night, which interestingly, like it felt like I was watching a Spurs game because they went with the black and silver
God, I hate that.
uniforms in the
I
court.
hate
And I was
that.
like, where are we? Are we in San Antonio right
Yeah.
now? What are we doing? I think just, I mean, and we saw the Nets be dominant over the Bucks over the weekend in their first game of round two. It's so interesting. Growing up, it was mostly the West all the time. Every now and then, LeBron would spark something in the Heat, right? But the West overall much more dominant, and right now it just seems like it's falling apart.
We will see how it all plays out. So once again, as Shannon mentions, our poll question at Ticket 760 at AM 1300 The Zone: which team will emerge and represent the Western Conference? Will it be the Clippers? Will it be the Jazz? Will it be the Suns? Will it be the Nuggets? I mean, and you look at those four teams. I certainly don't have any confidence in the Nuggets. I mean, I think the Suns will beat the Nuggets, and then sadly, I hope I'm wrong. I think the Clippers will beat the Jazz, and then I think the Clippers will beat the Suns. And even though you are quite confident that the Brooklyn Nets will emerge to beat the Clippers, I'm not so sure. Hey, though, Trae Young, my God, Atlanta Hawks come out on the road. Trae Young, the Trae Young coming out party continues as the Hawks on the road beat the Philadelphia 76ers to take a 1-0 lead in that series. That's pretty amazing.
What a strange game. I mean, Atlanta goes up by what, 20? And the last, I mean, it felt like 20 minutes, but it really was only the last 2 minutes of that game were complete insanity, with Philly pushing for a final comeback. There's one point where Trae Young lobs it up and it gets slammed down, and even the announcer's like, and to put the final exclamation point, and then it turns around and it's like a 11-0 run for Philly because Atlanta can't get the ball in bounds. They're out of timeouts. They keep turning it over. I mean, just absolute craziness. So on the one hand, you're like, wow, Atlanta did it. They, did the unthinkable. They beat Philly on their home court. They're not the favorite. Trae Young is the new guy of the NBA. Look, they went up 20 and they ended up winning the game. But if you watch that final stretch, this is going to be a great series.
Yeah, and my goodness, and Philly really made it a game late and just came up short on that, what would have been a miraculous comeback. Obviously, had Philly come back to win that game, I think that would have really torn the hearts out of the Atlanta Hawks moving forward. But even though they, hung on by the skin of their teeth, the Hawks still find a way to win that one and go up 1-0. And when you can punch another team in the mouth in game one, I'll never forget years ago, the Spurs were a number 1 overall seed, and Manu Ginobili, and they were the defending NBA champions, and they took on the Memphis Grizzlies, and Manu Ginobili was out in game one with an injury, and Memphis beat them in game one, and Spurs wound up losing to an 8 seed in that series to the Memphis Grizzlies. When you are a road team and you don't have home court advantage and you can get game one, that's why I look at that Mavericks series. They got game one and game two in LA against the Clippers and still couldn't win that series. But, certainly advantage Hawks at the moment. And now the Philadelphia 76ers, Joel Embiid, who did play, but who is, he's got his injury issues. We'll see how he can perform throughout the series. Now Philly has to win 4 out of 6, which is a little tougher than winning 4 out of 7. So we'll see how that plays out.
And with these games going on, it's interesting. We've already seen the Trailblazers say bye-bye to their coach, along with Damian Lillard writing like a thank you to the coach and the coaching staff and the great 9 years. And there's now rumors that he's going to go somewhere. The Bucks coach, he's kind of on the hot seat depending on how this series go. Doc Rivers, his first year with Philly. It's so interesting. the way the narrative shifts from not making the playoffs but not being good enough, making the finals but not being good enough
Yeah.
to win it all. And we're going back to the West with the Clippers, right? Their early exit last year was the reason that Doc is now with Philly. And to think that now they kind of have this much easier path after getting through the Mavericks to make it to the finals, what that says about them, what that says about the pairing of Kawhi and PG. If people are all of a sudden, oh, they should stay. It's good. Look, it's working. It's working. Well, you weren't saying that throughout the rest of the season.
No.
It's the craziness of the NBA Finals is currently in full effect.
Well, and you mentioned Doc Rivers. There's still a chance. Well, I think most people, and I agree with you, Shannon, most people believe that the team to beat in the East will be the Brooklyn Nets. Still, though, a chance if the Philadelphia 76ers won the East, you could still have a Doc Rivers grudge match versus the Clippers, in which case, oh my God, I'd be all about Doc Rivers. Yeah, I would love to see him block the Clippers' attempt to win a championship. So lots of intrigue in the NBA playoffs. In fact, love this guy. We had him on a few weeks ago. Antonio Daniels, who is an NBA analyst for Sirius XM Radio, and he is the official color analyst for the New Orleans Pelicans. Former Spur. He's played with a number of teams in the NBA, 13-year NBA veteran, and actually continues to live in San Antonio. Antonio Daniels is going to join us just after 8 o'clock this morning. We'll talk NBA playoffs with Antonio Daniels. And last time we had Antonio on, Shannon, we wanted to talk a little Coach Greg Popovich with him. And on the way out of the interview, he said, we'll definitely talk a little pop. He kind of feels that, Coach Greg Popovich of the Spurs has kind of been mischaracterized by some. So it'll be interesting to get an NBA analyst and a perspective from a guy who played with and won a championship under Coach Greg Popovich. Antonio Daniels, just after 8 o'clock this morning.
Well, and for a guy who played 13 years in the NBA, that is that's a long time, but it's also long enough to go through the changes of up and coming guys who end up, kind of taking over for the guys you knew when you went into the league as the big superstars. And, LeBron obviously making the early exit with the Lakers. Magic Johnson had some strong words for the Lakers over the weekend. And then we have guys like Trae Young who are showing off, and to the delight, I think, of all NBA fans at this point. I think if there was a team that I would like root for, I don't know that they'll really go anywhere, but the Hawks are fun to sit back and watch. And
yeah,
I wouldn't mind seeing them go further.
Oh, I'd love it. And that's kind of been a hapless franchise for so long. On a lot of levels, I'd like to see the Atlanta Hawks advance. Another one of our guests, Shannon, and not only is Andy great on golf, Andy Everett also going to join us in the 8 o'clock hour at about 8:35. He's our golf guru. But John Rahm, a guy who you've talked about quite a bit, a guy you paid close attention to during Dell match play in Austin several weeks ago, a guy who I believe you drafted in one or two of our PGA draft fantasy drafts. What a crazy, insane COVID weekend for John Rahm on the PGA Tour.
You watched that video of him being told that he has to leave the tournament, of which he's up by 6 shots in the lead. The announcers don't know what's happening. It almost looks like they told him someone he was close with died. I mean, he fell to his knees, hands over his face, and he was escorted off immediately. And to hear that, he came in contact, I guess, with someone who had COVID, had been testing every day. All those tests came back negative, and then one comes back positive. Of course, he's asymptomatic, so he's like, what is going on? Hopefully he stays asymptomatic and he does heal from it and get over and get healthy and get back out to playing, because he is a huge name for the PGA, also an international player. He's from Spain. But that's heartbreak. I don't know what the purse was for that game, for that
pretty
tournament.
Hefty, I'm sure. We can look that up, but yeah,
as they usually are. But yeah. I mean, consider that dude had a 6-shot lead whether or not he won it, he was going to get a mighty fine payday at the end of the weekend, and he walks away with nothing.
Man, COVID has affected sports well over a year now in so many ways. But as you described, Shannon, wow. That's an image that is going to be just emblazoned upon our minds probably forever. And just so emblematic of what COVID has done. And somebody pointed out over the weekend as well. It's like, this is why you get vaccinated. Whoever he came in contact with, when you get vaccinated, you protect other people from contracting the virus. Even if you're a young man like John Rahm and you're going to be asymptomatic, this cost him probably $1 million. You talk about the payday. This cost him a ton of money that he was probably going to make in this tournament.
Well, and Patrick Cantlay, I believe, ended up winning the tournament and is, I think, now number 1 in the FedEx Cup rankings. So he also loses out on his overall points for the season. I feel for the guy. I feel for that guy.
We will talk. There's so much that happened over the weekend in sports. Julio Jones apparently has a new home. I don't think the contract is official yet, but it's old bud official. We'll talk Julio Jones and NFL football, Major League Baseball. Astros won yesterday. Astros, I believe they've won 6 of their last 8, which is pretty darn good. We'll talk some Major League Baseball, NBA playoffs. Shannon, Salty Shakedown a little bit later, as I mentioned. Antonio Daniels, former Spur, now NBA analyst in the 8 o'clock hour, along with Andy Everett. We are with you till 9, and we'll introduce Jeremy Fouts in the next segment, our soundscape stylist, the flawless and fabulous boy wonder, Jeremy Fouts, making the show go. With you till 9. Thanks for hanging out with us on the Chris Duel Show. Woo! There you go, Eric. I think Eric requested Manic Monday. Excellent choice, sir. Oh! Hector Gomez, good morning. Eric Winchester. Jorge, good morning. Dave Emilio Castanuela. Welcome, everybody, on Facebook Live. Louisa says, congratulations to Longhorn baseball. Yeah, we need to talk about that as well.
Hey, Chris, can you hear me?
Yes.
Did you get Raven's email?
I did not. If I did, I didn't see it.
I'm pretty sure you're on it. There's a contest that we're supposed to be, I think the contest is next week, but we're supposed to pre-promote. It looks like it's linked to one of your advertisers.
Okay. So yeah, is it a Father's Day contest?
I think so. It's got a couple of layers to it. I assumed that you knew what it was.
Thank you for.
I've never heard of I think there's like a barbecue joint or something. Or
okay, thank you for that. I'll go look for it. I appreciate the heads up. Let's see. Yeah, I recorded a promo like a week ago for a Father's Day contest, but let me see what I can figure out. Oh, I see your text message about a board op. Just saw that. I'm behind on everything. 399793. 3997. Okay. Pre-promotion. Okay, thank you. See, you sent me a link, Anthony. Let me see if I can find it. Wow, a San Antonio kid playing with the Razorbacks. I just found that. Thank you for sending that. Where'd he go to high school? Michelle Johnson from Marysville, Kansas. Good morning. Yeah, Hector, I haven't seen that story yet by Gilbert Garcia. Somebody sent me like a screenshot of one of the quotes, and I was misquoted. See if I can find that. Yeah, somebody sent me a screenshot where it says, oh shoot, says that I said, I think about the Spurs, I think it's kind of inevitable. You look at the history of old teams. I said, you look at the history of all teams. He said that I said old. Spurs aren't an old team. It was the youngest team in Spurs history. So anyway. But thank you, Hector. I will. I'll take a look at that newspaper later today. Jason Paniagua, buenos dias. Eric Winchester, the Bengals were used to promote the Bengals in the 1989 Super Bowl. I didn't remember that. James Wright says, I feel for the Mavs. How about the Horns? Yes. Well, John, is Boban a free agent? I didn't know that. Maybe we could get him back in San Antonio. We could use a big man. Thank you. Chris Duel Show, along with Shannon Salty Sweeney, who Jeremy Fouts says programmed that tune. Thank you, Shannon. Jeremy Fouts, our soundscape stylist. I did not introduce him in the first half hour. My bad. I'm so rude. I'm such a rude radio talk show host. He's like making the entire show happen. Without him, there is no show this morning. He is the boy wonder. He is the flawless and fabulous Jeremy Fouts, the nephew of NFL Hall of Fame quarterback Dan Fouts. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. He is the pride of Oklahoma Christian University after turning down a full scholarship to Oklahoma Satanic University, and we're glad he did. So we don't want to sacrifice any goats here in the studio. That's not cool. Jeremy Fouts, how are you this morning?
Pretty good. Did you guys see the Paul versus Mayweather fight?
I did not. Shannon, did you?
It cost $50.
Well, and I heard Showtime and the Showtime app crashed in the middle of the fight or during the fight for most people.
Yeah, I believe it. I didn't see it, but apparently Mayweather, I was kind of hoping he would just smack him and end it like instantly, but
yes,
apparently Paul went the distance.
Yes, eight rounds, I think.
So I don't know if maybe there was a little money on the side in the hush-hush involved.
So it was an exhibition match. There's nothing real about it.
Yeah, it was all for show.
Millions and millions of dollars.
So I'm glad 50 of my dollars did not go to that, or 50 of either of y'all's dollars.
Yep.
No.
Did not pay the bills for that sham.
Well, and I don't, help me out, Shannon. And Logan Paul is like a YouTube. I still don't fully grasp who Logan Paul is and how this fight came about.
So he and his brother started making YouTube videos when they were like 13, and they just kind of blew up. So they started making more videos and doing kind of crazy things. And then those crazy things kind of got them in trouble, but it only made them more popular. And it kind of gave them this identity. They moved to LA. They make a bunch of new friends. They start earning a lot of money from monetizing their YouTube videos. So now they're millionaires. And so their videos are even crazier. They're buying all this stuff. And recently, I think they moved somewhere so they could get away from the LA lifestyle, yet they still are in Miami and LA all the time, flying private and doing crazy things like the whole before the fight when the brothers met with Mayweather for like a face-off for the fight announcement, and Jake Paul, the other brother, took Floyd Mayweather's hat and ran away with it, and Mayweather was very mad about it because apparently it was his favorite hat. I mean, that's just kind of what they do. They
Yeah.
make people mad to get views. And
They're
then
just
they make millions
thrashers.
off of it.
Yeah. Wow. And I saw somebody, and again, I don't know, but you tell me. Somebody said Jake Paul
Mhm.
would probably be a more formidable fighter for Floyd Mayweather than Logan Paul. Is that true?
I don't know much about they've both done fights in the past. I think one of them knocked out Nate Diaz, the former basketball player, or some. I really don't keep and nor do I watch their videos. They just kind of randomly appear, or they are popular on Twitter for doing something awful.
Yeah.
And someone said famous for being famous. I don't think that's exactly it, because they really they hustled their YouTube thing. I think now they're kind of living off their names that they made from YouTube. But last night's fight was just silly. First of all, Mayweather, of course, retired, right, officially, and he said, well, this isn't a real fight. It's an exhibition, and I didn't retire from making money. And I believe he made like $100 million from this fight.
$100 million.
It's insane, the amount
For
of
an
money
8-round exhibition against a YouTube star, Logan Paul.
Chad Ochocinco, I don't think he got knocked out. I know he got knocked down, and I think his fight was only like 8 minutes, but he made $1 million for doing that.
My goodness.
I might be willing to be punched in the face for $1 million.
And I'm just amazed so many people
Nate Robinson
put down $50 to watch a ridiculous exhibition. And then apparently a lot of them didn't even see it. I'm assuming Showtime's going to refund that $50 if your Showtime crashed or if the app crashed. I'm guessing that.
I don't think so, because I know like ESPN Plus has hosted a couple of fights, and especially like right after ESPN Plus took off and it crashed throughout a lot of those, and people were upset. I don't think they refund you. I think they say, well, maybe your internet service.
Oh man, that sucks. That sucks.
I don't get. And like, have you ever been to a fight? Because they don't seem like an event you want to go to unless you are ringside, because I don't know how you see it all.
Yeah, I've never been to like a major I've been to boxing matches that were kind of more low key or low end, but never
stadiums,
never a huge one. Yeah.
What are you looking at?
Yeah. Hopefully you've got big screen TVs, like, maybe if you're at Jerry World or something,
then you're paying for that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's so weird. All right. So I guess now, since it went 8 rounds and Logan Paul was not knocked down, I have heard that Floyd Mayweather dominated, but nobody got knocked down, and both guys were standing after 8 rounds. So what, is there going to be a sequel to this?
Well, Mayweather said he'd fight the brother because he doesn't like either of them. And people are into that. But I mean, the fact that people paid for this, I'm just like, you don't see what they're doing, right? They're hyping you up. They're both entertainers. They know exactly what they're doing. They know all the right buttons to press. There's probably pre-planned pressing as well. Like, they probably are buddy off the camera, whatever.
Yeah.
Just look at all the money they just made. All of your money.
Yeah, on Facebook Live, Eric Winchester just wrote, I watched the fight, but I'm still going to pursue a refund. I'll call Wells Fargo and contest the charges and claim it was a sham.
Oh.
Good luck with that, Eric. Funny.
Wow.
All right. Well, from the ridiculous to perhaps the sublime, we do this every morning at this time. Somebody in the world of sports deserves a high five. Let's see who gets the high five today. It is time for the high five play of the day. And high five, not just the name of the segment, but a very cool place. Actually, 2 locations you can go hang out at in the Austin area. In fact, Shannon, you've got a lot of history and experience hanging out at High Five.
Yes, one in Lakeway, one in Central Austin on Anderson Lane. And today, of course, Monday, one thing they do exceptionally well there, amongst many things, is burgers. And on
Woo.
Mondays, the special burgers are $5. So make sure you head over there today. Lots of TVs everywhere. So no shortage of sports either. Today's high five should be pretty obvious to those that are a little bit in tune with the sports world. Christian Pulisic of the U.S. men's national team helped the team win the CONCACAF last night, defeating Mexico 3-2 on an extra time PK. It was heroic. It was tremendous. The young man, obviously the star of the U.S. men's national team, just came off winning the Champions League for Chelsea not even a week ago. So he is now he knows how to hoist a trophy is all I'm going to say. Even better than that, he ran off to the sidelines, taking off his shirt in celebration of the winning goal, to Mexico fans throwing bottles at him. I mean, it was like, are we watching soccer or is this the NBA? But congratulations to that U.S. men's national team and Christian Pulisic. That team has struggled quite a bit. People have coaching changes, player changes. The argument has always been these MLS players. The competition isn't stiff enough over here for us to compete against the likes of Argentinas and the Portugals of the world and the Germanys of the world. But a guy like Christian Pulisic, who is an international superstar, plays overseas. We need more guys like him who are at that level, whether or not they're playing overseas or in the MLS. So fantastic to kind of have. He's now been dubbed the next Captain America.
Woo!
Dempsey, of course, you had that title when he was captain for the U.S. men's national team. So now the young man, Mr. Christian, doing big things for both his team and national team. Congrats to the U.S. men's national team. CONCACAF champ.
Now he takes his shirt off. Who does he think he is? Brandy Chastain?
No.
I mean, what was that all about? I'm just saying, come on.
Original.
And speaking of the women, we're getting closer to that. The women's team coming to Austin. Why don't you want to talk about that?
Talk about it.
Why not?
Because they had like 15 different pre-sales, and they pretty much sold out in the first pre-sale. And then they're on Ticketmaster, and Ticketmaster bases their prices on interest.
Okay.
And so all the tickets were supposed to be $52 to $85.
Okay.
A lot of people were able to get them at that price. By the time I got to my pre-sale, the cheapest seat was $300. And that's before you add the Ticketmaster. Well, because you bought it online for our service fee, we're going to need another $50.
Oh my God.
And, all the other added taxes and fees. Look, I'm so excited. I know it's a huge deal. It's the opening of the Q2 stadium, but I went and saw them in San Antonio, the U.S. women's national team, on their Women's World Cup victory tour, where they played at the Alamo Dome right after winning the Women's World Cup. The trophy was there. I got to take a picture with the trophy. It was a whole thing.
Yeah.
Didn't pay nearly that much. Okay? So for a game that literally doesn't matter, I don't get it. They play in Houston a couple of days before. They have 2 games in Houston, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Those tickets regularly priced were cheaper than what they were already supposed to be for Austin. So I'll probably be watching the game in high five.
Now, but what about you are a member of the media? What about a media credential?
A friend and I had said we're gonna go, and our pre-sales there were still pre-sales to come after us. So I just don't understand.
That kind of sucks. That really kind of sucks. That they were going to be between the $50 and $80 range, and that when you logged on, they were $300. Wow.
For the same seats.
For the same seats that somebody's getting for between $50 and $80.
Yeah.
I don't understand how that works.
I don't either. It's unfair. It's just I almost clamor for the days of just waiting in line for tickets.
Yeah.
Like normal people, because I am all about being in line and being the first in line and waiting my turn, getting my fair shot at things.
So who's responsible though? I mean, is it Ticketmaster who inflates those tickets from $50 to $80 to $300? What?
I think it's Ticketmaster, because they have there's all the pre-sales, and then they have the Ticketmaster, like the regular seats are considered premium via Ticketmaster.
Yeah.
And there's nothing premium about them other than the price tag. There's no extra whatever.
That's
upset.
awful.
I'm upset.
Yeah. But on one level, these organizations like Ticketmaster and others, it's what the market will bear. And I guess if there's somebody who's going to pay that outrageous amount of money for those tickets, I guess they're going to get sold. And once again here, just like with Austin FC at Q2 Stadium, it's a smaller venue than the amount of people who want to go see an event. So I guess you've got a little bit of supply and demand going, and demand outdistancing supply in this case.
Which I very much understand, but don't advertise that it's $52 to $85 a ticket, and then it's definitely not that.
Wow. I'm sorry to hear that.
I'm upset.
You should be. And I'm sure you're not the only one. I'm sure you speak on behalf of a lot of other people who are upset.
And I know I'm a member of the media, whatever. I can get a pat, whatever. I committed to go with a friend. I want to watch as a fan. I want to wear my jersey. You're not really supposed to do that as a media. You're not even supposed to cheer in the press box.
No.
It's I basically go, when I go to a press box, I'm there for the food. Okay. I'm there for food, and then I'm going to go back to the stand.
Right.
I get my food and I get my stat sheet, and I'm back in the stands.
Yeah, see, those are my two, whenever I'm at an event as a media person, two things that I don't like. A, you're not allowed to cheer in the press box. And B, they frown upon your drinking alcohol, beer. So it's,
sometimes
part of the experience for me as a fan is enjoy some adult beverages at an event. So I would, most recently when the San Antonio Commanders football team played in the Alliance of American Football, I believe it was called. God, I lose track of all these leagues. But yeah, so I went in as a media guy because I got in free. But then I would go down and kind of hide my little media badge and get in the beer line and guzzle a couple of beers, then go back up to the press box and try not to cheer. I was once thrown out in Minnesota. Charlie Parker, who's down the hall on WAI, and I, way back in the day, we were on a Spurs playoff road trip in Minneapolis at the Target Center it was Spurs Timberwolves in the playoffs. And we were like cheering for the Spurs, and people were giving us the death look. And they finally just threw us out of we didn't care. We were Spurs fans. This was the playoffs. It was Tim Duncan and Manu and Tony, and we don't care. We're from San Antonio. Get out. Yeah. They threw us out of the press box.
That Texas LSU game, I had my normal seats, but I was in the press box for the first half.
Yeah.
And there were so many LSU people and national people in town, they didn't have enough seats for everybody. I, of course, being like a regular, like I had my assigned seat, so I was sitting. But there were LSU people that just came and stood in front of me I was like, hello. And people next to me were like, hello, sir. Like, what are you, like, they were just making everybody mad that I just grabbed I got my Tiff's treats and I went down to my seat for the second half.
Tiff's treats are everywhere. It's like everywhere I go to a mini mall.
You're at a Texas event.
I see a Tiff's treats like at every mini mall these days.
They're so good.
I should have invested in Tiff's treats. Little Jimi Hendrix for you coming up. We'll talk more NBA playoffs. NFL, Julio Jones on the move. Let's get into that. Where is Julio Jones going to play football this coming year? And what about Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers? There's a little bit more news there. We'll jump into it. She's Shannon Salty Sweeney. Jeremy Fouts is your soundscape stylist. I'm Chris. Till 9 on the Chris Duel Show. All right. Marquet says, F the Astros. Nothing real about the Astros championship either. Thank you very much. It was 2017, Marquet. That was 4 years ago. 4 years ago. Long time ago. That's 28 years in dog years, by the way. Alan Green, good morning. Want to become famous? Buy followers. Woo! Yeah, let's go buy some followers, everybody. I'm going to go grab some more ice and some more tea. Eric, thank you for the Bengals YouTube from the Bengals Super Bowl. Here we come.
This is the Chris Duel Show. You know what a day it is? Now, Chris Duel.
Welcome in on a Monday as the NBA playoffs roll forward into the next round of the playoffs, the conference semifinals, as the LA Clippers break my heart yesterday. I'll get over it. Trae Young breaks the heart of the Philadelphia 76ers. John Rahm is heartbroken thanks to COVID. He was up by 6 strokes and escorted off the golf course, disqualified because of COVID. We talked about that. We'll talk more about that coming up in the 8 o'clock hour. Our golf guru, Andy Everett, will join us just after 8:30. In fact, just after 8 o'clock, one of our favorites, Antonio Daniels, former San Antonio Spur, 13-year NBA player and veteran, now NBA analyst. He's the color analyst for the New Orleans Pelicans, also an NBA analyst for Sirius XM, and just absolutely fascinating and a great guy. Antonio Daniels going to join us just after 8 o'clock. We'll talk some NBA playoffs and more with Antonio Daniels. Shannon Salty Sweeney on board. In fact, this is the hour, the 7 o'clock hour. Just after 7:30, we bring you Shannon's Salty Shakedown, along with This Day in Sports History and Sports Birthdays. By the way, you can join us on Facebook Live. We are streaming live video, as we always do, on Ticket 760's Facebook page and on Ticket 760 and AM 1300, the Zone's Facebook page, along with there's links via YouTube and Twitch. And Shannon, you reminded me off the air to remind people that starting next week, a week from today, which will be Flag Day, by the way, June 14th, we're going to start giving you a chance to win a $50 Rudy's gift card each day, and then you qualify for the ultimate Father's Day grand prize, which is a killer grill from Barbecue Outfitters. And Barbecue Outfitters, plus you get a $100 gift card to Specs, so you can get some alcohol. This whole thing is brought to you by LearnToBuyAndSellCars.com. It is a huge Father's Day gift package from Barbecue Outfitters with that grill, the gift card to Specs. LearnToBuyAndSellCars.com, making it all happen. That begins a week from today, but we're giving people a heads up, Shannon, that is coming next week, which should be a lot of fun.
And not only do we give away great things, but we prep you.
Yes.
So put it on your calendar.
We tell you it's coming. And that's like everything Dad would need, a grill, alcohol from Specs, learn to buy and sell used cars. I mean, everything a dad wants to do.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty much. So
yeah. I finally got my furniture in, my outdoor furniture. Only
Yes.
6 weeks after quite the basically there was a third party that was supposed to deliver it. And they took a picture of my front gate and said that they delivered it, only to find out that they didn't, because they said it was damaged, and Home Depot was like, you didn't want to tell us that. So Home Depot went above and beyond. They knocked the price down for me, and they brought it over immediately to my residence on their own late last week, and I got it put together, and my backyard is now perfect. But you just mentioned a grill, and I have never grilled, but I've got like the perfect spot for a grill.
So you might have to start.
I feel like now I need to lean towards getting a grill, and then figuring out how to use one would also.
Okay, now I want to back up on this story. A third party was going to bring the backyard furniture that you purchased from Home Depot, and the third party took a photo of your gate.
Yeah.
So I'm confused as to what happened next.
So like Home Depot and myself could not get in contact with this third party. We finally did the beginning of last week, and they called me and said, I don't know that we have it. It might be lost, but we'll keep you updated. We'll let you know. And you look on the website of where you look at your like track, like you're keeping up with the tracking, right? And
Yeah.
it's got my shipping number, and it says, the package will need to be signed for. It'll, should appear on this date, even though that date had like way passed. And I just randomly kind of refreshed it. I think it was Thursday, and it had said that in one day it had been received by them, taken out for delivery, and delivered. And the photo proof that they had for the delivery was a picture of the front gate of I live in like a gated condo community. And that
Okay.
was their evidence. I have a ring. So the timing for which they said they were there was nothing happening outside of my front door. So
Yeah.
they never even made it into the gate.
Oh my
For
God.
whatever reason, they went through all of this shenanigan, and it took Home Depot reaching out and being like, "Hey, what's the deal?" For them to be like, "Oh yeah, it was damaged. We just didn't deliver it."
Wow.
So major props to Home Depot for getting to the bottom of it and helping a girl out, and giving your girl a discount, because your girl loves to save money.
But so this third party, this is like a delivery company that Home
Yeah.
Depot hires?
Nationwide delivery. I don't want to throw them under the bus, but yes,
Well, maybe you should.
I got to keep my sponsorship
All
availability
right.
open, sir.
All
You
right.
never know.
Just people are just well. That is just amazing. They would
Yeah.
take a photo of your gate and go, "Yep, we delivered it.
Yeah.
Everything's good.
It was just,
Nothing to see here."
like it was a big purchase for me to make, so for it to go through all that made it more stressful, right? It wasn't
Yeah.
like I ordered a hammer.
My goodness, what a
So-
well. I'm glad. So, how many days after when you thought it was going to arrive did it finally get to you?
I mean, the original arrival date was April 22nd.
April.
And
This
then
is June.
And then May 10th. And then it was May 23rd.
Oh my God.
And then it was lost or whatever. Like, I was to the point of like, oh, I'll just give it another week before I just cancel it, and get my money back, whatever. Because I really love the furniture, and I'm glad I have it. I sat on my patio a lot this weekend. I have the mosquito bites to prove it. I am covered. I look diseased, but it was very comfortable. I'm watching a coworker of mine's dogs this weekend, so I just had 3 little dachshunds just running around in the yard and just sat there and enjoyed my new furniture. But
Wait,
now I need a grill, because I just stare at the spot where a grill would go. It'd be perfect.
Now I know you have a dachshund named Shipley, so your coworker just also happens to have the same breed of dog that is
Yeah.
your favorite breed
Yeah.
of dog, a
They're
dachshund.
long-haired, so it's not like I confuse them or anything. But yeah, and their names are Gucci
Gucci.
and Dash, short for Kardashian.
Oh my. Okay, that's a little too she for me. Gucci and Dash,
They're
short for
And they're
Kardashian.
very well behaved. They're excellent house guests.
My
They're
God.
much more calm than my 1-year-old, who just is wired all of the time.
So did your 1-year-old Shipley get along with Gucci and Dash?
Oh yeah, they've been playing a lot, wearing each
Okay.
other out. So it works out nicely.
All right, that's a good thing. All right, moving on to sports. Believe it or not, we actually talk sports. Julio Jones has a new home. He's staying in the South, the American South, as apparently the Atlanta Falcons traded wide receiver star and at one point maybe considered to be headed for the Dallas Cowboys. Not really, but there was some speculation. Nope, he is headed for the Tennessee Titans, reportedly in exchange for a second-round draft pick in the 2022 season and a fourth-round draft pick in the 2023 season. Along with Jones, the Falcons will send a 2023 sixth-round pick to the Tennessee Titans. And Shannon, you and I texted about this over the weekend, and you had a very interesting thought immediately when this thing came down.
Yeah, there's a lot of layers to this, especially considering all the pub this got nationally with that little TV snippet that kind of went down. But my initial reaction as a Texas person and as a Texan sometimes fan was just how much farther behind the Texans continue to fall within their own division.
Yeah.
Because Tennessee was already pretty much working on all cylinders, right? Ryan Tannehill's a great fit there. The running back thing has been going pretty well for him. Derrick Henry kind of known for stiffing people big time by and getting into the end zone. And now they've got a legitimate outside threat should he stay healthy. The Colts are re-energized with the likes of their brand new quarterback. What's his number? Number 2. We're going with number 2, Carson
I
Wentz.
guess he's number 2
Because
right
you
now.
wouldn't have number 11. You've also got Sam Ehlinger there, but they are re-energized and ready to revamp everything. And then, of course, Trevor Lawrence and Urban Meyer taking over for things in Jacksonville. So everybody, I think, feels ready for the season. And then you look at the Texans, and I guess Tyrod Taylor is going to be leading that team. I don't know how you feel about that. He's a legitimate backup, but as a starter, I just don't know. And you also, like, without JJ Watt,
Yep.
you're still D-Hop. I feel like they have yet to find anyone to claim as their own. It's like, whose jersey are you buying this year?
Oh
That's
my
what I'm
God,
asking.
nobody's.
They don't have that guy.
No.
You're certainly not going to be wearing Deshaun's jersey, not for
No.
the time being. So I feel for the Texans, and then something like this happens, and it's like, what else? What else?
Yeah. That when you told me that, and I didn't immediately go to that connection, but I think it's brilliant, and you're so right. Every other team in the AFC South is doing something. You know, the Colts are certainly ascending, and they add Carson Wentz, and they were already good. As you mentioned, you know, here the Tennessee Titans already very good. Now you add a surefire Hall of Famer, perennial All-Pro in Julio Jones. Jacksonville Jaguars, Trevor Lawrence. If not this year, someday soon. They seem to be ascending, and the Texans are just completely falling apart. And as I texted you, you know, the name that is notorious to me for the Houston Texans is Jack Easterby.
Mhm.
He is the former New England Patriots chaplain who somehow worked his way into an executive role as the pseudo general manager, the guy who pulls the strings, now the puppet master of the Houston Texans. A number of weeks, actually months ago now, you and I found video of Jack Easterby doing his stand-up comedy / preaching, which was pretty god-awful. I just wonder now, you know, is the goal for the Houston Texans to go 0-17 and get the number 1 overall draft pick, since they did not have a number 1 draft pick in this draft? I'm wondering. I wonder what the over/under is on wins for the Houston Texans this season. 2, maybe 3. I mean, they just seem to be god awful and going nowhere at this point.
I don't even know, like, the big discussion with this year's draft was all of the quarterbacks and the quarterback talent, and the fact that there really isn't much coming out of the college football ranks this next season. I mean, who knows? Someone may turn heads at some point, but going into this season, there isn't that Trevor Lawrence. You know, there isn't that Justin Fields. There isn't that Mac Jones. So I don't even know who they look for to do that, or what they can maybe do in free agency. It feels like the upper echelon of the Texans are playing Go Fish, and they're just losing because they're not even trying. There's been nothing out of that camp whatsoever.
Which is so amazing and so sad, because for so many years, you know, the Texans were, you know, they never broke through. They never went deep into the playoffs, but in the Deshaun Watson, JJ Watt era, they were always pretty good. They were always knocking on the door of the playoffs or in the playoffs. And in just like the last calendar year, you know, starting with the god awful trade of DeAndre Hopkins to the Arizona Cardinals for pretty much nothing. And then JJ Watt moves on, Deshaun Watson, the complete meltdown and debacle there on multiple levels. First, he wants out. Now, I think at last count, 22 women saying that, you know, he was sexually inappropriate with them during massage situations. The whole Jack Easterby revelations. Jack Easterby seems like a very Machiavellian, backstabbing kind of a guy. You're either with him or he will find a way to undermine you. It just, God, the Texans are an absolute dumpster fire, and it sucks because, you know, they're the other team from Texas. Granted, you and I think most of our listeners are Dallas Cowboys fans. But, you know, the Texans were always, you know, I've always said, I hope someday in my lifetime for an all Texas Super Bowl, because it would be the coolest thing ever, in my opinion. But man, that ain't coming any day soon.
I just don't know who you root for. It's all falling apart so quickly. And you mentioned Deshaun Watson, and that he wanted to leave before all of this came out.
Yeah.
So even if he is cleared or whatever, the likelihood of him returning happily to the Texans is very slim.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe if he's cleared, you have some trading power to get a starter. But again, there's so many issues going on that clearly isn't going to be the fix, because if it was the fix, you would have been winning with Deshaun prior to.
Very interesting post here. Kevin Monk on Facebook Live just wrote, and it doesn't seem that long ago, and B, it seems like 10 years ago. Kevin wrote, the Texans fall off started in that game against the Kansas City Chiefs in the playoffs, blowing that huge lead. That was just 2 seasons ago. That was like not last season, but the year before. Texans are at Kansas City in the playoffs, and what was it, like a 28-3 lead, something insane.
Like 24.
They were up by a lot, and then then all of a sudden Patrick Mahomes said, "Hold my beer," and then they blew them out. But they were in the playoffs with a big lead at Kansas City in a year that Kansas City would go on to win the Super Bowl against the 49ers. And it's true, from that moment, the roof fell in on the Houston Texans after that.
I mean, I know, like, at that point, everything was being blamed on Bill O'Brien, and I think he deserved most of it.
Yeah.
But looking at this team now, I clearly there's a little bit more going on there. I mean, that's one thing that you can either say, oh, look, we have a new coaching staff, like it's a different vibe, it's a whole different culture, whatever. But at the same time, you look at that with the rest of the mess that's going on, and you go, this is not the time to have an entirely new coaching staff and a new culture.
Well, yeah, and the Houston Texans, David Culley, the guy they hire as a coach, what was a guy that most people, he was not on most people's radar as a coaching candidate. Yeah, I mean,
guys.
43 years in the league, yeah, and he's like an older guy, but nobody. And I'm looking at that staff right now. I just pulled up the Houston Texans coaching staff. Associate head coach Lovie Smith. Yeah, he's got a lot of experience, but the rest of these names, and again, it just looks like, Jack Easterby, who is the general manager / puppet master of the Houston Texans. I don't know if his plan is to run this into the ground. He's former team chaplain. I don't know if he's counting on Jesus to do some kind of a miracle to lift up the Houston Texans. I don't know what's going on there, but it looks pretty darn ugly.
For all the people they interviewed, you almost wonder if those people saw glimpses of the inside and were like, no thanks.
Yeah.
And David Culley was all that was left. And then the other part of this, we talked about Texans because with Julio Jones being acquired by the Titans, which is not official contract-wise, but Twitter official.
Yes.
Is, because it's all the Titans been tweeting about. The fact that he was traded for a second-round pick next year and then 2023's draft, a 5th and 6th?
Yeah.
That seems low to me. And I don't know if that's because it happened after the draft or he goes on national television saying he wants out, so therefore Atlanta doesn't have much to hold their hat on because everyone's gonna be like, what, you want to keep a guy who don't want to be there?
So what, you think they should have gotten a first round pick for Julio Jones?
I don't know about a first round, but I don't know.
Yeah, or maybe even like, a conditional first round if he performs to this level. Julio Jones, we've talked about him, 32 years old. Usually once a receiver in the NFL hits 35, typically, unless you're Jerry Rice, the skill set tends to drop off pretty much. So we're guessing maybe 3 good years left for Julio Jones, who has also been kind of injury prone lately.
Yeah.
But yeah, so meanwhile, and we'll probably get more into it in a little bit of news with the Green Bay Packers and Aaron Rodgers. Mark Murphy, the president of the Packers, saying that Aaron has divided the Packers fan base, which kind of makes sense if you ask me.
You're making it worse, bro. Like, why would you say that to people?
Yeah, now you're calling the fan base into question.
This is my problem I have with you people. Why would you say that and put that for everyone to hear and see? And now everyone's like, it's Aaron's turn to respond. I'm like, dude he's going back to Wisconsin or to pack his bags. That's what he's probably doing right now. You kidding me? You can't say that.
No.
And expect him to be like, you know what? You're right. Let's hug it out, bro. Let's bring everyone back together. Let's just eat some cheese curds and all get along. It's not gonna happen.
And you got to wonder at what, here we are in June and training camp begins in late July. So we're just a little over a month and a couple of weeks away from training camp. If you're the Green Bay Packers, you got to come up with a plan soon, I would think. We just talked about Julio Jones. At some point, if somebody wants out,
Yep.
You've got to move that player while you can still get some value for him, and especially at the quarterback position. I mean, all these other teams are starting to make their plans at quarterback.
Let's send them to the Texans.
Ooh!
Texans, give everything you have left to give.
Oh, man.
And just get you an Aaron Rodgers.
If you
Sorry,
think
Rod, you're ousted once again.
If you think Aaron Rodgers is unhappy now, man, send him to Houston. Hey, Aaron, meet Jack Easterby, your new boss.
Yeah. Also, training camp is going to suck because it's hot and it's humid and it's all outside.
And I've told you, Shannon, I've been to Texans train at 8:00 in the morning in Houston. And I'm not even working out. I'm not a player. I'm a media guy. My shirt and my pants, and this is too much information, even my underwear is like soaked. It's like, it's 8:00 and it's humid and it's Houston. It's like, oh my God. Can I go back to San Antonio where there's a little bit of a breeze at 8:00 in the morning in the summer? All right, coming up. I know that was too much information. I'm sorry. Coming up, Shannon's Salty Shakedown. This day in sports history, sports birthdays, and more. Just after 8:00 in about a half an hour, a little over a half an hour, NBA analyst, 13-year NBA veteran Antonio Daniels. We'll talk some NBA playoffs and more with Antonio. Golf guru Andy Everett at 8:35. What the heck happened to John Rahm and COVID over the weekend? We'll get into that. Lots to cover with you until 9:00 this morning. Thanks for hanging out with us. She is Shannon Salty Sweeney. Jeremy Fouts, the boy wonder, is your soundscape stylist. I'm Chris. It's the Chris Duel Show. See. Anthony Huerta, good morning. Kevin Monk, that was a great point. Eric Winchester, I used to walk around with so much talcum powder in my shorts, I looked like I was stuffing powdered donuts in my pants. All righty. Good morning, Beth Settle. Does this mean your internet is working if you're on here with us? John, I saw that. I think she knows to look at the small print. Here we come. Pull that up. Little Mississippi Queen, submitted for your approval by Jeremy Fouts, your soundscape stylist. Mississippi Queen was once covered by the late, great comedian Sam Kinison. I once had a Sam Kinison comedy album, I think from the late 80s or the early 90s. And Sam Kinison covered this song. Just saying. Chris Duel Show along with Shannon Salty Sweeney. You can join us on Facebook Live. We stream live video on Ticket 760 and AM 1300 The Zone's Facebook pages. There are links into the video through YouTube, through Twitch. You're welcome to join us. You not only interact with us live and in real time, but also other people who are hanging out with us from across Texas and around the world, which is all sorts of fun. By the way, if you ever want to join us on the phone lines, the old-fashioned way, your phone calls are always welcome. 800-707-9760, 800-707-9760. As I mentioned, starting next week, we're going to have a big Father's Day giveaway. Each day you could win a $50 Rudy's barbecue gift card. Speaking of barbecue, you could win a grill, a big-time grill from Barbecue Outfitters, and a $100 gift card to Specs. And it's all presented by LearnToBuyAndSellCars.com. It is the huge Father's Day giveaway beginning a week from today as Father's Day gets a little bit closer. Coming up just after the top of the hour, 13-year NBA veteran. He's a host on Sirius XM, and he's the color analyst of the New Orleans Pelicans, former San Antonio Spur, won a ring with the Spurs in '99. Antonio Daniels going to join us. He's always outstanding, and as is Andy Everett, who's going to join us, our golf guru, and more. Big weekend in the world of golf as John Rahm leading the tournament over the weekend by 6 strokes until he was tested positive for COVID and was removed from the tournament. Just a shocking development in the world of golf. We will get into that. Shannon Salty Shakedown is moments away, but first, sports birthdays and this day in sports history. Thank you very much. June 7th, 1966, in the Major League Baseball draft, the New York Mets passed on a player named Reggie Jackson. Instead, they decided to select Antelope Valley High School catcher Steve Chilcott as the number 1 overall draft pick in the 1966 Major League Baseball draft. Good job, Mets. Instead, the Oakland A's drafted Reggie Jackson. He became Mr. October for the A's and later for the Yankees. Good job by the Mets. This day in 1981, French Open Men's Championship, Bjorn Borg of Sweden wins his 11th and final career Grand Slam title. It was his 6th French title. He beat Ivan Lendl 6-1, 4-6, 6-2, 3-6, 6-1. For those of you scoring at home, Bjorn Borg was kind of a big deal. You'll hear his name again in a moment. This day in 1982, LA Dodger Steve Garvey is the 5th baseball player to play in 1,000 consecutive games. Kind of an Iron Man there for Steve Garvey, or was Steve Garvey. This day in 1989, the great one, Wayne Gretzky, wins his 9th NHL Hart Trophy. That is the most valuable player trophy. He won his 9th in 10 seasons. You know, you think LeBron James is great, and he is. You think Michael Jordan was great, and he was. Wayne Gretzky won 9 MVPs in 10 years in the National Hockey League. Pretty amazing. This day in 1994, Oakland A's outfielder Ricky Henderson steals his 1100th career stolen base. Pretty remarkable. And finally, this day in 2009, again in the French Open, Roger Federer wins his only French Open title outclassing Robin Soderling of Sweden 6-1, 7-6, 6-4. That's this day in sports history, June 7th. How about some sports birthdays? Thank you, John. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, George. Thank you, Ringo. Thank you, Yoko. Thank you, Linda Eastman. Thank you, Olivia Harrison. Thank you, Patty Boyd, who was married to George Harrison until Eric Clapton stole her. Layla, you got me on my knees. Born on this day, June 7th, 1944, Tommy Smith, American athlete and Olympic sprinter, the first to break the 20-second barrier. And he is most famous for his Black Power salute while on the Olympic medal stage in Mexico City in 1968. Tommy Smith was born in Clarksville, Texas. I didn't know that. How cool is that? Tommy Smith, a Texan. Born on this day in 1956, I said his name earlier, Bjorn Borg. So when he won that French Open back in the day, he did it on his birthday. Swedish tennis player Bjorn Borg, born on this day in 1956, 11-time Grand Slam winner. He was born in Stockholm, Sweden. Born on this day in 1961, Dallas Cowboy linebacker and special team stud. He made the All-Madden team many, many times. Bill Bates, number 40, born on this day in Knoxville, Tennessee. Bill Bates was also on the coaching staff of Tim Tebow's high school. It's because I used to have Bill Bates on the radio. He always told me of this kid in high school named Tim Tebow who was pretty good and is still pretty good and might make the Jaguars team. Finally, born on this day in 1975, he is 46 years old, and he's not much for practice. Allen Iverson, born on this day in 1975. Allen Iverson was born in Hampton, Virginia. There you have it. Your sports birthdays and your sports history for a June 7th, 2021. And now, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, friends, Romans, countrymen, and farm animals everywhere, because farm animals love it too. Here it is, your Salty Shakedown.
Yeah, we're going to kick things off this morning with a Texas Longhorn lowdown. A lot happening on the 40 acres, including both Coach Steve Sarkisian and Chris Beard getting transfers from their previous schools. Okay,
Woo!
so we've got running back Keelan Robinson coming to Texas, of course, from Alabama. He actually opted out of the 2020 season due to COVID, but he did play in 2019. A lot of people already excited about this Texas running back room because we've got Bijan Robinson, of course, and Roschon Johnson. And you're like, how could it get much better? Well, this guy, apparently Mr. Robinson, starting with a K, I guess we'll have to get some initials on the back of those jerseys to not be confused, but he apparently brings speed to the game, something that the other two are lacking. Through the touches he did get during that 2019 season, he averaged 6 yards a carry.
Ooh,
That's pretty good
yeah.
when you consider you have 4 downs to get 10 yards. So I like that addition there. Also coming to the 40 acres to play for Texas basketball is former Texas Tech shooting guard Avery Benson. Now, he doesn't get a ton of playing time. He only averages 1.8 points a game, but it's the personality that he brings to the locker room and to the team. Apparently, he was a Texas Tech fan favorite. He has now transferred for his senior season to play 1 year with his coach, Chris Beard, and bring some joy and experience into the Texas locker room. And also, we have to give a major shout out to Texas baseball, who owned the regional this weekend in Austin. They scored 33 runs, Chris.
Oh,
That's a lot of bat hitting.
yeah.
All right. And a lot of those games, they had to wait around to play, right? Because they were the evening games. I believe it was Saturday. That game was supposed to start closer to 6:30. It didn't start till like 8:10. So I stayed up late a couple nights this week, but it was well worth it because they put on a show. They now wait to find out whether they will play South Florida or South Alabama in the Super Regional, which will again take place in Austin this coming weekend. They're on the road to Omaha, Chris.
I love it.
Your thoughts on all the news coming out of the 40 acres?
It's a great time to be a Texas Longhorn. Just great news. I do find it interesting, Chris Beard
Mhm.
on the basketball front, bringing in the dude who scored 1.8 points per game. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, Chris Beard sees value in this guy, and as you mentioned, he might be a great locker room guy, so he might be a great culture guy. But kind of an interesting choice.
Yeah, an interesting choice, but nonetheless, I think it still hurts Texas Tech fans to see that their players are following suit and heading to Texas to stick with Chris Beard. All right, we've talked some Texans today. One guy who will, I think, forever be known as a Houston Texan, J.J. Watt, is back in the news over in Arizona. I don't know if you would call it hazing because it didn't have anything to actually do with football. A little bit more fun and games. But he and rookie linebacker Zaven Collins, they practiced on Friday. At the end of practice, they said, hey, let's go play golf tomorrow. The rookie offered to bring breakfast. J.J. Watt said, oh, that's so nice. Here's my order. The two meet up the next morning, and the linebacker forgot to bring the breakfast.
Oh,
So JJ took to Twitter to let people know of the faux pas and said, what should his punishment be? And let people of the Twitterverse decide what the punishment should be. Kyle Murray came in with the final and winning answer, which was for the rookie linebacker to have to roll down the fairway of the 18th hole. And that's just what he did. JJ Watt caught it all on video. You can see it over on his socials. But not to fret, because later that afternoon, the rookie linebacker, Zaven Collins, came over to JJ's house and brought him that breakfast order. So all in good fun, but you love to see that he's already getting along with his new teammates off the field and having a little fun with the rookie. Is that a bad punishment, Chris, rolling down a fairway?
no, I don't think so. I mean, usually,
right?
yeah, so many times, and we've seen this on Hard Knocks. A rookie gets hazed, and
Mhm.
a lot of times they get taped to the goalpost, which I think would be god awful. I'd rather roll down a fairway than get taped to a goalpost and left there for several minutes.
Yeah. The only thing that was probably the worst part about it was probably that it was the 18th fairway, so they had just played 17 holes prior. Right.
Ah,
So it'd been a long day. You're in Arizona. Lord knows how hot it was out there, as the weather here has already been peaking in the 90s. But I loved that story, and good for Zaven Collins for taking it upon himself to want to hang out and get that extra time with JJ, because I don't know, a lot of rookies coming in, they see these guys that are like 3-time defensive player of the year. Like, he probably idolizes this guy, and now he's getting to golf with him and roll down that 18th fairway with them on Saturday mornings. All right, finally today, we got an update for you on Brooks Koepka versus Bryson. Now, before we play this clip, Chris, are you aware of the latest update?
I think so, but just in case, because this is an ongoing feud, spat between Koepka and Bryson DeChambeau. Where do we stand on this?
There is so much going on. Bryson played in this past tournament this weekend. Brooks did not. People who followed Bryson around were chanting, "Hey, Brooksy, hey, Brooksy." Bryson didn't care for that. He didn't care for it so much so that he had them removed from the tournament. That's right. PGA official escorted folks out without the availability to return to that tournament. And so Brooks responded to that with this little message via social media.
What's up, guys? It's Brooksy. Just wanted to say, hey, thank you guys for the support. I heard a bunch of you were shouting my name at the golf tournament today. I know I'm not playing, but thank you guys for showing support. And if your time was, I don't know, say cut short at the golf tournament today, DM Michelob Ultra, and we're going to be giving out 50 cases of beer to the first 50 people, in case your time was cut short, had any trouble at the tournament. But just as a thank you for showing support. Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
So not only does Brooks fight back against that, right, without even saying his name, people just know at this point what's going on. Bryson, after that round, was commenting and saying that he thinks the PGA should intervene with fans and basically he thinks the fans of the PGA are acting the way the fans of the NBA are right now, which I don't think that's the same at all. I think he just can't get over himself and have a little fun with this rivalry. I think he also realized that at this point he's losing the rivalry, and he doesn't like that because the dude doesn't like to lose. Your thoughts on Brooks taking this a step further in partnership with Michelob And Bryson now saying, PGA, can you help me?
See, now I saw some Bryson DeChambeau quotes where he said, fans can do what they want. It doesn't bother me. So it's interesting. You've got reporting that DeChambeau orchestrated the ouster of those fans who were, being loud and saying Brooksy. But from Brooks Koepka's perspective, to get Michelob Ultra involved and to give fans cases of beer, I think he mentioned 50 cases of beer. That's pretty cool to do some trolling and get a beer sponsor involved. That's taking things to a new level. Again, I love this spat. I love this feud. It's so much fun. So I'm just sitting back and enjoying it. I think it's a lot of fun.
We will certainly get Andy Everett's thoughts on this.
Yes.
Later today, 8:30, he'll be joining us to talk golf. I don't know, maybe a little football too with this Julio Jones news. But therein concludes today's Salty Shakedown.
Very, very nice. And back to Texas and the Longhorns just a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And this running back from Alabama that Steve Sarkisian is bringing over, 6 yards per carry. Yeah. That's pretty darn formidable.
Yeah, he only had, I think, like 38 carries in that 2018 season, or 2019 season. But he did score 2 TDs. Like I said, the thing he's bringing to the table is speed, which allowed him to have a giant outburst. I believe his longest run was 72 yards. So once he finagles his way through that line, it's off to the races. And I think it's great. I think that is an area that they need assistance in, as great as Bijan is and Roshan is. They're a little bit slower, so they're a little more big bodied. So I think it's a great addition to that locker room. And again, I think another reason to be excited for Sarkisian. I mean, a lot of the big talk about Charlie and Tom was that players were getting out of Texas, right? Players were going to the Alabamas. They were going to the Clemsons. But now we've got a coach who's bringing them from those schools to follow him. So I think that just speaks a lot to Sarkisian as a coach. And again, just something else to be excited about going into this next season, for which I think we are now 94 days away from college football season.
Getting closer, moving into June, a week down now at June 7th.
Fresh cut turf, you guys.
It is coming. From football to basketball and the NBA playoffs. As we roll forward, we'll talk NBA playoffs and more with Antonio Daniels, 13-year NBA veteran. He is the color analyst of the New Orleans Pelicans. He is an NBA host on Sirius XM. One of the greatest guests locally and nationally. You hear him on a lot of the national shows like Dan Patrick, Colin Cowherd, and others. Antonio Daniels, longtime fan favorite in San Antonio, where he was a San Antonio Spur, won a ring here, and has stayed in San Antonio and built a home in San Antonio. More coming up. Antonio Daniels and Andy Everett coming your way in the 8 o'clock hour on the Chris Duel Show. I gave you Antonio's number on that rundown, right? Okay, cool. Antonio Daniels coming up. Antonio is there. Thank you, sir.
This is the Chris Duel Show.
You know the day destroys the night. Night divides the day. Try to run, try to hide. Break on through to the other. Break on through.
Now, Chris Duel.
A new week begins after a big weekend of sports, including lots of NBA action. And speaking of the NBA, we've got an incredible guest coming up now. It is the Chris Duel Show, along with Shannon Salty Sweeney. And when you talk NBA, this guy, just a tremendous NBA analyst, a color analyst for the New Orleans Pelicans. He is an NBA host on Sirius XM, 13-year NBA veteran, including the San Antonio Spurs, where he won a championship in San Antonio. In fact, was part of that 1999 first Spurs championship team. And in fact, he's got his big basketball camp coming up later this month. We'll talk about it. It is the 20th year of his basketball camp. He is the one and only Antonio Daniels. Antonio, welcome back. How you doing this morning?
I am awesome, Chris. How are you? How you doing, Shannon?
So glad to have you back, sir. I mean, and so quickly and at the right time of year, too.
Now, and what has surprised you so far, Antonio? I think some people may be surprised that the Lakers are no longer standing as they got ousted in the first round. Then you had the Clippers down 3-2 to Dallas. I thought Dallas was going to win one of the final two games, either Game 6 or Game 7, but led by two big performances by Kawhi Leonard, the Clippers move on. What have you found surprising so far in the NBA playoffs?
I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. Nothing yet. Brooklyn's been dominant, which is what we expected. And in the Western Conference, LA hasn't been right all year. You know, I've been saying all year on our Sirius XM show, and we had a ton of Laker fans calling in and telling me, you know what, you're just hating. And like, that team's mentality was different this year. You had guys that were concerned with things this year that wasn't an issue last year. Dennis Schroeder's concerned with his money. THP concerned with his money. You know, they had so many free agents. Montrezl Harrell, money. Marc Gasol, minutes. Last year, Rajon Rondo was a free agent. Dwight Howard was a free agent. You didn't hear anything about their contract. Dwight Howard and JaVale McGee didn't play in certain series last year, but you heard nothing about them complaining about minutes. So the mentality this year for the Lakers is different, and LeBron's leadership is not enough to overtake all that's going on in the locker room along with the injuries.
Well, and keeping it with the Lakers, because I think a lot of people saw LeBron and AD on the roster still and thought that was all that mattered. That would carry them through. Of course, they both suffered injuries throughout the season and throughout the playoffs, but it seemed like LeBron really lacked leadership in that first round, particularly when he walked off the court during one game to go back to the locker room when there was 5 minutes left. And then even in that final game where everything was on the line for them, he stuck back on the opposite side of the court arguing calls against the ref instead of getting back and playing on D. That doesn't scream leadership to me.
No, but that's a clear-cut sign of frustration. I mean, I'm not making excuses for it, but trust me, I called him out numerous times because that's not what leadership looks like. And the reason that I can speak on what leadership looks like because I felt like I played for the best team in the history of professional sports in Tim Duncan. So I know what it looks like. And LeBron is used to a certain level of success. He has a standard that he holds himself and his teammates to. And you can see the frustration. You can see it. And it's not just LeBron. You know what I mean? And I say this, I'm going to take this somewhere else. Think about throughout the course of the year some of the conversations and things that you saw from Kevin Love in Cleveland. Because when you're used to playing championship basketball and then you have to take a couple steps backwards and wait for everyone to catch up with you, it's tough. I don't know how many times on our show we talked about Kevin Love this year, how frustrated he looked, throwing the ball out of bounds, throwing the ball at the referee, throwing the ball at his teammates because he's used to playing in NBA finals. Now you have to go back and kind of wait for guys to catch up with you. It's tough. It's tough. In LeBron's window right now, being the age that he is, with the amount of tread that he has on his tires, is very, very small. So I can understand the frustration, but you're right, Shannon. That does not excuse the lack of leadership and the body language that he displayed in the first round of the playoffs.
Yeah, and you're right, LeBron James, we've talked about it, Antonio, 36 now. In next year's NBA playoffs, he'll be 37 years old. So I agree with you. That window is closing. And it's interesting, you bring up Kevin Love, back at Cleveland, their big three at one time was LeBron James, Kevin Love, and Kyrie Irving. Of course, Kyrie now with the Brooklyn Nets, even though James Harden now is dealing with a hamstring injury. As you look at that Eastern Conference with the Brooklyn Nets with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving and James Harden, do you see Brooklyn as the team to beat in the East and maybe even in the NBA this year?
No question. I said the moment that they acquired James Harden, I had them going to the NBA Finals. At that moment, way back when. Because if you go back throughout the history of the sport, I can't think of a team, especially when they had LaMarcus Aldridge and Blake Griffin. I can't think of a team in the history of the sport that's had that much firepower. I'm talking about history. You can go back to the Golden State team that had Klay Thompson, Steph Curry, and Kevin Durant, but that's where it stopped. With this team, you have those three, the best three one-on-one players in the league, but then you add in Blake Griffin. You saw him in game one. You add in Joe Harris, those kind of guys whose skill set complement their stars. I can see somebody beating Brooklyn on a Tuesday. On a Tuesday in Brooklyn, or on a Tuesday in LA, or on a Tuesday in Milwaukee. It's different come playoff time because that firepower, you have to beat them 4 out of 7 times. And with Kyrie Irving, James Harden, and Kevin Durant, I'm sorry. I just can't see a team beating that team 4 out of 7 times.
Antonio, with that, I want to talk about coaches right now. Of course, the Nets playing at Milwaukee, and Mike Budenholzer seems to be on the hot seat. Portland Trail Blazers oust their coach after their early exit from the playoffs. We've got a guy like Coach Pop, who has been with one team for years, and then we've got Steve Nash, who year one with the Nets and is already, the front runner for the NBA Finals and for a championship. How much is him and how much is the team? And in this way where we are now with the league and it's kind of a player-driven league, how much can we really put on the coaches for a success of a team?
I think it goes both ways. Because you know what you hear from fans all the time? When a team is successful, you praise the player and you criticize the coach. But when a team is unsuccessful, you blame the coach and kind of push the players out a little bit. I give praise when it's due. So if a team is successful, it's not just because of the play. And coaches will never get the credit they deserve. They never will. So if you look at someone like Steve Nash, look at someone like Greg Popovich, look at someone like Phil Jackson. You know what you hear all the time? Well, you know what? If I had Tim Duncan and I had David Robinson and I had Tony Parker and Manu Ginobili, if I had Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Scottie Pippen, and Shaquille O'Neal, I would be no. It's not that easy. Coaching talent is hard because you have to get everybody to be on the same page. You have to get everybody to kind of set their egos aside. I give credit to Mark Jackson for kind of laying the foundation in Golden State, but Steve Kerr stepped in and brought that team to a completely different level because of his relationship with the players. He unleashed a different Draymond Green that we haven't seen before. So I get the whole talent thing. Well, if it was me, I would. Yeah, I get that whole thought process. Coaches will never get their credit for how difficult it is to coach talent. Set egos aside and get everybody on the same page, which ultimately is winning the championship. That is so much easier said than done. Some of the most talented teams in this league have never won.
He is 13-year NBA veteran, now NBA analyst and color analyst of the New Orleans Pelicans, Antonio Daniels. And Antonio, when we talked to you a few weeks ago, I had meant to get to the topic of Greg Popovich with you, and we ran out of time. And since you just brought up Coach Pop, I just wanted to ask you a little bit about him. I mean, you know him well. You played for Coach Pop. You've lived in San Antonio for many years. You've had relationships, obviously, with Tim Duncan and so many of the Spurs who have played multiple years with Coach Greg Popovich. And I've seen criticism of Coach Pop lately, mainly from what I believe to be uninformed Spurs fans. I think Spurs fans have been so spoiled because in the Tim Duncan era, it was a foregone conclusion. The Spurs were going to probably win between 50 and 60 games and go deep into the playoffs and maybe go to the finals. And then I really think that Pop and R.C. Buford and this Spurs brain trust had a great plan in place post Tim Duncan, and Kawhi Leonard kind of blew up that plan, and the Spurs have been kind of re-energizing themselves ever since, and actually making some good moves, getting some great players lately like Keldon Johnson and Devin Vassell and others. Your thoughts on Coach Pop and where Coach Pop is right now with this team and now at age 72?
Well, I say this first and foremost because I hear a lot of the criticism as well. Greg Popovich has won 5 championships here in San Antonio and kept this franchise relevant for 20 plus years. He has earned the right to walk out when he's ready to go. Every coach can't say that. I can't say that for every NBA coach. There are certain coaches that have that badge of honor where I don't care what goes on. He has earned the right to walk away from San Antonio and pass the torch to someone else when he feels it's time. You know what's wild, Kristen? I said years ago, when Tim Duncan walked out that door, and this is before he retired, the culture is going to walk out with him. And I remember I was doing radio here in San Antonio at the time when I said that. And so many people called in and said I was crazy. No, Kawhi Leonard, no, it gets in great hands. Listen, culture is not just about what you do on the floor. It's not just about the amount of points or your production. Being the face of a franchise, it is tough because there's a lot that comes along with it. Lo and behold, Tim Duncan retired. Then Kawhi Leonard has to be traded, and then LaMarcus Aldridge has to be traded twice. Because there's something to be said when you have a star player that is coachable and that exemplifies true leadership. Because you know what that does? That makes other people want to follow in his footsteps. Plain and simple. And what Tim Duncan, David Robinson, Manu Ginobili, and Tony Parker did is they kept this San Antonio Spurs fan base in a bubble. In a bubble. The bubble meaning they don't know what it's like in the real NBA. So what happened was when Tim Duncan walked away, San Antonio Spurs fans began to see what the real NBA was like for the other 29 teams. When you have a sustained success and you don't have guys asking to be traded, you don't have to deal with guys asking and worrying about their money all the time. And some of the other things all the other 29 players, 29 teams were dealing with because you have the leadership of a Tim Duncan, a David Robinson, and a Manu Ginobili, and a Tony Parker. I think the best line I've heard. So when I was at Tim Duncan's retirement ceremony, Greg Popovich said, you know what, Tim? I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to coach you. And I don't think people understand how powerful of a statement that is. Because as Shannon said earlier, this is a player-empowered era. Where if you look, who has all the power? If a player's not happy, he says, you know what, I want this coach gone, and he's gone. You know, you get James Harden that comes to camp out of shape and says, I want to be traded. They move him. Marc Gasol gets set a couple years ago in the fourth quarter. 2 days later, his coach is fired for doing so. Kevin McHale got on James Harden's backside. Later on that year, he's fired. So in a player-empowered NBA, to actually have a star player that says, you know what, man, I'm willing to take the tongue lashing. I'm willing to take whatever you have for me because you know what? That is going to keep us at a level of relevance. Listen, man, that's not how it is throughout the course of this NBA. Trust me.
Antonio, with all the players having so much power now, the one thing they don't seem to have power over is between the fans. Of course, fans so far during these playoffs have been acting in a way like I don't think I've ever seen before. And it's all coming seemingly at every single game very quickly. And the players, of course, can't react, right? Because they will be fined or suspended or other. But what are your thoughts on fan behavior? And did you ever experience something like that in your career?
I think it's ridiculous. I'm going to be honest with you. I think it's ridiculous. I don't know if it's the pandemic. I don't know if it's the quarantine. The fact that people are so used to being confined that now you get out and you feel like it's okay to act a fool. Players, entertainers are not animals. They're not animals. And some of the things that are being done, I can't wrap the concept. You know, pouring popcorn on a player's head, spitting at a player, running on the floor, you know, going at a player's parents and calling them names in the crowd. Like, this is, you can be a fan. And the thing is, it's 0.0001% of fans. But all we know, all it takes is one of those fans for another Malice in the Palace Part 2. That's all it takes. For someone to spit on the wrong person, for someone to do something in arm's distance of a player for it to turn into another black eye for the NBA. And I tell you what I didn't like. I didn't like the fact of the term indefinitely used as opposed to permanently. So when fans were doing things, what you heard was, oh, well, this fan has been suspended from Madison Square Garden, or this fan has been suspended from Wells Fargo in Philadelphia. Indefinitely. Like, indefinitely, it could be a week. That could be a series. That could be a month. That could be a year. When things like this occur, fans need to be permanently disbarred from attending any other event at that arena. Because what that does, when the punishment is light, what that tells other fans is, oh, well, shoot, I can do it and get away with it too. The stricter the punishment, that's the way to cut down on the amount of nonsense that's going on. But the NBA has to do something about this. They have grown leaps and bounds on protecting players inside the 4 line. You know, flagrant fouls, flagrant twos, guys are getting ejected. You can't contest. The physicality is removed from the game. All these other kind of things to protect their assets in between the 4 lines. Now it comes to a point they have to do that same thing and protect these players outside of those lines for fans that are feel the need to kind of step over the line as some of these fans have done.
Well, and Antonio, the commissioner, Adam Silver, seems to have been very pro player over the years. Do you think this is something, you know, once we get to the off season, since this has been such a pronounced problem, certainly during the playoffs, do you think that's something Adam Silver's going to look at? And I agree with you. It should be a permanent lifetime ban if you cross the line to that extent at an NBA game.
Yeah, I think it's something that'll be addressed eventually. But right now, it is, you know, you're in the middle of the playoffs. You're trying to finish this season, still in the middle of a global pandemic. But this is definitely something that has to be addressed. Adam Silver, like you said, Chris, Adam Silver has been pro player from the moment that he has stepped in this league. And he has had to deal with a lot. If you go back and look, you know, the moment that he stepped in the league, he had to deal with Donald Sterling. He had to lead the league through the passing of David Stern, the tragedy of Kobe Bryant, and all the others that passed in that helicopter accident. So there's a lot that he had to kind of take the NBA family through. This is the next step. This is the next step. This is something that has to be addressed. And I want to make it clear. The NBA is not the same without fans. You know, me calling games last year in a bubble with no fans, it's trucky. It's not the same. Piped in fan noise, piped in crowd noise. You cannot simulate passion. You can't simulate passion. So this game needs fans. The game is not the same without NBA basketball fans. It's just a small percentage, very, 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 very small percentage of fans that step into these arenas with the wrong idea. I don't know if it's to go viral or whatever it may be, but I said on our show last week, as a fan, you know, you're always told, you know, they just get fishy. Man, I'm going to say what I see at the airport all the time. You see something, say something. You see something, say something. You see a fan acting out of line, because what it is, it's a reflection on everyone. It's a reflection on the whole NBA. It's a reflection on your particular fan base. They're not going to remember this one fan's name, but what they'll do is tie into the entire fan base. Think of the way that we think of Utah Jazz fans now. And we are talking about 4 fans. If you go back to the Russell Westbrook incident, 2 fans got barred. A couple weeks ago, what they did to Ja Morant's parents. His mom couldn't even return to the game because she was like scared. Think of the way, but you don't know the name of those 4 fans, but it is an overall reflection of the fan base. So I say this, as a fan, you see something, say something.
Totally agree. And again, when you mentioned the reflection on the fan base, when I heard that about the fans in Salt Lake City, I just said to myself, thank goodness that kind of thing doesn't and hasn't happened in San Antonio. So I totally agree with that. Antonio, before we let you go, we got to mention, and I want to talk about your basketball camp has been amazing. It's 20 years now. You have done the Antonio Daniels basketball camp in San Antonio. It's coming up again this month, June 21st through the 25th. People can register at your website, the Family Foundation website, danielsfamilyfoundation.com. It is co-ed. It's open to kids 7 through 17. For people who might not know about your basketball camp, tell us a little bit about it.
Well, you just said a lot. You know, it's co-ed 7 to 17 or 6 to 17 if you have a child that's used to playing organized sports. And my thing that I've always prided my camp on is not strictly being about basketball. This isn't a camp where you come to and I roll the basketball out and say, you know what, go play. No, this is a life camp. The thing I've grown to learn throughout my time around the sports and now having 3 children is the parallels between life and sports. There's so many things that we can teach our children through sports. Learning to win, learning to lose, teamwork, sportsmanship, leadership, all these different kind of things. Those are the things that we focus on along with the fundamentals of the game. You know, passing, shooting, dribbling. We have every kid gets a t-shirt, every kid gets fed every day. At the end of the week, which is Friday, we have an all-star game 2 years ago because we couldn't do it last year because of the pandemic. You know, Tim, he came out and played in the all-star game. He's come out and played 3 or 4 times in the all-star game versus kids. I played in the all-star game versus kids. Malik come out and played in the all-star game versus kids. So it's a really, really good time. And I tell parents all the time, this will be the best camp that your child ever attends. And I stand by that. And you can register at AntonioDanielsCamp.com.
AntonioDanielsCamps.com. And Antonio, I've said this before and it's true. I love that you're doing these camps and I love that you've done them for 20 years because you're a man of faith. You're a man of family. You do so much through the Daniels Family Foundation. And you're here not only, as you say, to provide a basketball camp, but to provide life lessons and a foundation and role models for these kids. And I'm just, as a San Antonian, I'm just so glad that you have continued to be a part of the San Antonio community and you continue to do the basketball camps. I think they're fantastic. I think they're wonderful for the community. And I just thank you for continuing to do that and be a part of our community.
Thank you, Brent. Thank you so much. It's an honor and a blessing. I honestly feel like the Lord blesses us with certain talents and certain skills so we can share that with the world. Life is about paying it forward. And, you know, after 13 years playing, and 4 years of college and 4 years of high school, been playing basketball for such a long time, and then just dealing with life in general. You know, it's on us to kind of pass along what we've learned, not just in between those 4 lines, but outside those 4 lines, to make sure that when those parents entrust their children to us, that when they leave our camp at the end of that week, that they leave a better player, but more importantly, a better person.
Once again, the camp is this June. You can still register June 21st through the 25th. Co-ed, kids 7 to 17 or even 6 to 17 if your child has played basketball or organized basketball. Antonio Daniels, sir, always outstanding. Thank you so much for taking the time, and have a great basketball camp later this month.
Thank you, Chris. Shannon, the pleasure is always mine.
All right, our pleasure as well. The great Antonio Daniels, who, man, ever since he was a player with the Spurs and part of that first championship back in 1999, has continued to be a fan and a community favorite. Great to have him still in South Texas and in San Antonio. Quick break. Man, what a weekend in golf, especially for John Rahm. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the Koepka DeChambeau spat that continues. Andy Everett, our golf guru, joins us next on the Chris Duel Show. Mark Faz on the Baseline Bums. Yeah, they did throw some beer. You are correct, sir. Bill Brendel, how you doing in here? Fred Robert Casares Jr., Christopher Summers, Wes Perkins, Tracy Bogert. Welcome in, everybody. absolutely. Andy Everett is here. Bill Brendel, Jeff Bezos flying his own rocket into space. Is that an actual story, Bill Brendel? Did I miss that? Here we come. Mamma Mia. Little ABBA for you as we get ready for some Andy Everett. It's the Chris Duel Show, along with Shannon Salty Sweeney. Andy Everett is our go-to golf guru. Among other things, he is the host of the golf show on Ticket 760 in San Antonio, Saturdays at 8 in the morning. Even if you're outside San Antonio, like in Austin, You can catch that on the iHeartRadio app. Andy is also the voice of UTSA Athletics. Andy Everett, welcome back in. How are you this morning? We are good, and we are probably all better than John Rahm is doing right now after a 6-stroke lead in the Memorial Tournament in Dublin, Ohio. He then tests positive for COVID-19, and he is removed from the tournament. Over a year now, we've seen COVID affecting sports. As a guy who's covered golf and played golf your whole life, Andy, how bizarre was that scene over the weekend?
Tour for how and when they told John Rahm and for CBS not being notified earlier that this was coming. But apparently from all indications is about 6:05 Eastern time, they found out this was the issue. And they got in their golf carts and they ran down to the 18th hole where he was approaching the green. And they let him finish putting out. And as he was walking off the green, they had to tell him to get him out of there as quickly as possible, and to make sure that he wasn't getting in contact with anybody else for more than 15 minutes. And so that was the part of that. A lot of people have blamed John Rahm for not being vaccinated, but there is a lot of people that are speculating that he wasn't even eligible to be vaccinated until about 6 or 7 weeks ago, and he may or may not be partially there right now. He may have had the first shot, he may have had the second, but the 2-week period has passed. So no one really knows what his vaccination status is. But I think both Patrick Cantlay and Colin Morikawa, who finished first and second yesterday, are the benefactors of this, because I don't think there's any way John Rahm would have shot 77 to end up in a playoff, and he would have probably easily cakewalked to that tournament. Unfortunately for him, now he's got a quarantine for 10 days, and we're getting close to the U.S. Open. And as long as he isn't symptomatic, he should be good to go by the time the U.S. Open rolls around.
Andy, do you think the PGA will make any changes after this? I mean, one, I found it very interesting, and when they told him, it was a pile of people surrounding him at that point, right? When, hey, you're positive for COVID, but here we are all on top of you, and you're going to walk through all of these fans as we escort you away from the field of play. But it was just so strange that this came down in the middle of play. Why will they change to rapid testing? I'm kind of surprised they're not already doing so, to where they are confirmed that players are not playing with a positive COVID case prior to getting out there.
I've been told by trainers and doctors and people who know more about this than I do that the PRC test, the one that takes longer, is the more accurate test, and that the quick rapid test will give you an indication if there's an issue, but a lot of times they want to confirm that with a PRC test. That the quick rapid test isn't as accurate or doesn't work as well. I'm not sure what all the language is, but the PRC tests are apparently the better of the two tests. I know that this past football and basketball season, to travel with UTSA, I tested 3 times a week, and we're kind of being led to believe that once you're vaccinated, that won't be as necessary or necessary at all, hopefully, in the future. And I think that's the message that the PGA Tour is sending all of its players. If you come in contact with someone that has COVID and you're vaccinated and you're fully vaccinated, well, there's no reason to test you unless you start feeling well, feeling ill. And if you do, then we need to test you to make sure it's not COVID. And that the likelihood of you spreading it is very, very rare. The one thing that I've noticed on all these PGA Tour events, and you know, you go back to the Texas Open, all this 6 feet apart, wear your mask, social distance while you're on the golf course, no one's paying attention to it. The PGA Championship was evident of that when Phil Mickelson and Koepka were walking up 18, and there was no crowd control. They had to fight their way through the crowd to get to the green. And in normal times, I don't think people would have even given that a second thought, but we're certainly not in those times anymore. So, and then as far as him walking through the crowd, there was really no other place for him to go unless they put him in a golf cart and drove him back down the 18th fairway where there weren't any people. The reason that Patrick Cantlay and Colin Morikawa and Xander Schauffele, whom he played with throughout the week, were not put in contact tracing is because it was deemed that at no time during the round were they close enough to John Rahm to warrant contact tracing. Apparently, you need to be in a car, you need to be in a confined space for at least 15 minutes in order to be in the contact tracing protocol. So I'm not sure what they would change or even if they're even considering it. I think most sports are hoping that as more and more people get vaccinated, there's less and less of this to happen. And there's been players that have been DQ'd, but no one with a 6-shot lead.
Andy Everett talking golf with us. And Andy, do you think maybe one of the effects, I mean, obviously John Rahm lost a lot of money this weekend. And as you document, he would have almost certainly won this tournament. Do you think the effect will be now other golfers on the tour are going to, A, make sure they are vaccinated, and B, maybe try to keep their distance from anyone who could infect them because it could affect your pocketbook?
Well, John Rahm was told back on late on Memorial Day, or he told the tour, hey, I came in contact with someone that tested positive. Here's the situation. And the PGA Tour gave him the option. You can play every day. You can play every day as long as you test negative. And you have to stay out of the locker room and any of the common areas inside the clubhouse. When you leave here, go straight to your hotel. Don't go out to eat. Just order room service and stay where you're at. Or you can withdraw and go home. And so he chose to play. And he tested negative for 5 straight days. And the irony of all this, or the weirdness of all this, if you will, is Thursday's rounds, we've got one. Most of the players didn't finish. So that meant that they had to finish the second round, and Rob was in the group that had to finish the second round on Saturday morning. So after the second round, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, somewhere around there, he had to go take the test. And they take the test, and they put it in a little cooler, and they take it off to whatever mobile lab they have, and it takes 8 to 10 hours to run those tests. And then he goes and plays. And by the time he's finishing his third round, that's when they notified him of the issue. I think most of there was a PGA Tour official who I think it was either Amanda Valionis or Dottie Pepper was talking to, not on camera, but was relating the story that most of the PGA Tour will be fully vaccinated by the end of June. And what's been led to surmise from that is that either players have already got their first shots, some have already gotten their second shot, and some have had both shots, and are already in that fully vaccinated. I think they said 41% or somewhere around in there of the tour was fully vaccinated. And the goal obviously is 100. There probably will be 2 or 3 players that say, it's not for me, I'm not taking it. And they'll be in the John Rahm category should they come in contact with somebody that gets it. But I think by the end of June, early July, and certainly as we start talking about playing the international events in the Irish Open, Scottish Open, and Open Championships in July for those players that will play from America that will play there. And then in September, when the Ryder Cup comes to Whistling Straits, I'm sure we'll have most of the people involved vaccinated.
Andy, real quick, because we're up against it. Bryson DeChambeau was not pleased with fans who were yelling, "Hey, Brooksy," at him throughout the tournament. He even had some escorted off the premises. He's now asked his team to ask the PGA if they could intervene. Is there anything the PGA can do other than hold up the quiet signs and just make sure people aren't talking while they're about to hit?
Well, I think if fans get too unruly, and usually fans that are too unruly are usually intoxicated, they can be escorted off the premises. And most fans don't do that. There's usually a handful of them. But Bryson started this, and Brooks has kind of been the guy that just kind of rolls his eyes. DeChambeau is the one that can't keep quiet. So I think in a way made his own bed. Now, I've heard a rumor. I can't confirm this, but I've heard a rumor that DeChambeau and Koepka are going to be in the first group for play together the first 2 days of the U.S. Open. So we'll see if that actually happens. I would hope that the USGA would not do that, but it's in their right because they both are in the same category as past champions. So we'll see if that comes to fruition.
The saga continues. Koepka and DeChambeau. Andy Everett, he is the host of the golf show, 8 o'clock Saturday mornings on Ticket 760. Also the voice of UTSA Athletics. Next time we'll probably have to talk some UTSA football because we're down into the 90s before kickoff, 90 days, a little over 90 days before kickoff. Andy Everett, always outstanding. Thank you so much and have a great week. All right, Andy Everett. All right, Shannon, we asked our listeners and our viewers who is going to come out of the West, the Western Conference in the NBA, and represent the West in the NBA Finals. I know the answer is now upon us. Who did we determine it was going to be?
Folks are saying Jazz. The Utah Jazz to come out of the West. Clippers follow closely behind at second. Nuggets in third. And surprisingly to me, the Suns. I would have thought they would have received more votes after what they did to the reigning champions, the Los Angeles Lakers.
Yeah, to me, the Nuggets would be the fourth out of those four teams. And I still now, sadly, I think the Clippers are the team to beat. I hope I am wrong about that. All right. Our thanks to Andy Everett, who we just spoke with, Antonio Daniels, and go to either the website Antonio Daniels Basketball Camps or the Daniels Family Foundation. Both of those have information about the Antonio Daniels Basketball Camp coming up later this month. Shannon Salty Sweeney, outstanding as always.
Thank you, sir. You as well.
Why don't we do this again in, say 21 hours?
Sure.
Yeah, why the heck not? Yeah, let's do that. Jeremy Fouts, I guess you won't be joining us until
sadly no.
God knows when. Thanks for blowing us up, man.
Yeah, blame Davo. He's just so excited to get back that he pushed me aside.
Well, you did a great job anyway, darn it. Maybe we'll see you next Monday. I think that's what the way it works out.
I hope so.
Good job, sir. Have a great week.
Thank you. You guys too.
All right, everybody, have a wonderful Monday. Stay out of trouble. Be good to one another. And we will see you in 21 hours. Adios, amigos.